Welcome back to Get With The Programming. I'm Chase Ingram.
I'm Captain America.
Along with me is Bill Grundler. Wolverine. We are going to reprogram the Dubai Fitness Championship. Why? Because it's what we do. We analyze, we talk, we reprogram, and we reprogram in a way that this could be the, what is it? In the NFL, I think there's a show on NFL Network called like the Monday Morning Quarterback or Armchair Quarterback.
Yeah.
Where it's like, oh, I would have done it this way. I was like, yeah, that's really easy to say, but we have to say it in a sense of like, is it a plane?
Yeah, it's like, it must be like 12 feet over my head right now or something. It's so loud.
Is there a plane that is about to crash into your building? Oh, but what we like to do when we reprogram, and we put this as a part of it, and as we develop this process and try to give you guys some visuals, is that it's really easy for someone to come in and just be like, I would have done it this way. It's like, yes, but like let's be realistic. And I mean, we found this out over the course of the 4 years. I think, will it be 5? Or is our 5 year coming up?
Yeah.
Or do we start right around because Pedro just celebrated his 5 years.
Was he before us?
Yeah, I think so. Or right around the same time. Yeah, he was before us, I guess.
I mean, I remember you were talking about it at New Year's. Hey, you know what I want to do? I really want to start this podcast. Yeah, man, you should totally do that.
Yeah. And then, man, I should have started years ago. And he put this, I want to see if I can find his post, but he put this so eloquently, and it's totally right, because when I started or wanted to get this going and it was running it by you, it took me a while just to run it by you, and
I know,
and just to run it by friends, because I was, I don't know, just like anybody. It's like, okay, I have this idea, and then you talk yourself out of it, and you give yourself all the wrong reasons not to do something. But okay, this is what he put. He says, okay, started 5 years ago, and I guess this was, it was last week. Most people don't start. Of those that do, most quit. Few people care about CrossFit. Less want to talk about it. Less want to listen to others talk about it. But if you're here, you're probably one of the select few who love it and want to spread it. So if you guys haven't followed Pedro at Coffee Pods and Wads, go do it. I'll put his Instagram here in the chat for you guys that are rolling with us. But I think that happens all the time. It's like, oh, I want to do this. And then you just self-sabotage yourself before it even starts.
Yep.
And then while you're doing it and you're grinding through it, I mean, how many times have we were doing podcasts of like 2 or 3 people watching? Not caring.
Well, that's the thing. You can't care.
2 or 3 people, right?
You can't care.
We do this because we love to talk about CrossFit, period. End of story. Our podcast came out of really, like, it was we say this a lot, like this was our, what do they call it? Like your COVID thing?
Yeah, it was the social release.
Instead of making sourdough bread, me and Bill decided to start
do a podcast. I just think, you know what, with what Pedro is saying, and I think with the how long it took you to really like take the jump, mm-hmm. is when someone is going to try something new, mm-hmm. the safety net is I need to have it 100% worked out.
Yes.
And the problem is that there's no such thing as 100% worked out. Mm-hmm. And then 2, it's the fear of, okay, well, if it's not 100%, that means that I'm going to fail. And then the only thing that you're thinking about is what could possibly go wrong, instead of all the cool stuff that it could be, all the fun you can have, all the positive. Like, we never, ever, ever think about the positives. It's always the negatives.
Always.
And that's I think that's what hung you up. And so, you were asking me and your friends and stuff like that. And when people do that, they're trying to build up some sort of steam to jump off the high dive.
Yes.
That's all it is.
It was steam. It was trying to build some confidence just with people that I care about, people's opinions I care about.
Right.
The third part of that is why I was doing it, is because if I'm going to open my mouth and say I want to do it, or I have this idea, now I have to. So in my mind, I was like, I'm going to tell enough people to force my own hand to just nut up and do it.
Yeah.
So that was a part of the process. So yeah, it'll be 5 years, I think, in March.
Crazy. Yeah, in March. Yeah.
Dang. I would have never thought we'd been here. Not never. We would have kept doing this. And we never went live. We'd always pre-record. And then I think Savan bullied us into going live. And that first live show was like the scariest. That was almost
Which is crazy, dude,
because
but we've done live stuff in front of thousands of people, like on ESPN and see, like that should never have been anything like nervous for us. But it's the same thing. It's just standing on the high dive. I'm gonna go hit the button to go live. Oh my god!
But for us, like this is ours, and that like broadcast is theirs.
True.
Right? Like when we broadcast, when we do a broadcast, and Bill and I, especially when we got to work together, like we were in service of.
True.
Right? The broadcast should be in service of the event and the athletes competing, not from a perspective of,
hey, look how awesome I am.
Yeah,
look what I brought to you.
Right, and I was texting you this today.
Mm-hmm.
Like the whole point when we broadcast is to make the event come alive. Right? Infuse some excitement, some energy, some point of reference, some background material of the event, or what this is, or how to do this, or why this happened. Like the storytelling of the races within the event, the storytelling of the races for the whole competition, where this person's background is from, why they're successful here. All those things fused into this engaging entertainment to make it exciting, palatable, and engaging for the viewer at home.
Mm-hmm.
We want to bring the event to life. Otherwise, you're just watching people work out.
It's really funny that you're saying that, and then this Avera just hopped up there, and seemingly, and I can't tell the tone. Obviously, I can't tell the tone of if you're pissed or not. So cool, catch us on the next one. However, look at what our title is.
Right.
Get with the programming. And we've done this with all of the big events. We talk about, if for no reason of talking about the event itself, we're looking at workouts, because as coaches, as athletes, as programmers, as affiliate owners, as fans of the sport or fans of working out, we are looking at things that we see can be fixed and tweaked, and what's the purpose of, and whatever. So I politely, I appreciate that you don't want to watch it. Cool. We're not talking about Dubai. We're just going to be looking at 9 different workouts, and we're going to like reprogram them or adjust them to where we see them fitting in the competition better. So we're using our almost 5 years of live programming experience to give them to you. But hey, other than that, we'll see you on
years of CrossFit ownership, competition,
coaching,
experience with that. And just erase the title. 9 events we want to reprogram based off what they were originally intended for. It's not about Dubai.
Right.
We're just using Dubai's programming because that was one of the bigger ones that has happened recently. And then we'll look at Legends that just went down. One of your athletes?
I had 2.
Oh, you had 2. So you had Tammy.
I had Tammy, who's there. And then I got Becca Voigt's husband.
Oh, no way.
Eric Miller, yeah.
That's cool. How do you do?
I think it was 5th or 6th. He had one event that didn't really work out in his favor, but he had some really good ones. Oh, that's good. But I just started working with him a month ago, and so
that's really cool.
Yeah, we're moving. It's cool.
Gordon, be cool to see you guys look at the programming for the international fitness. Yes, about the IF3. Mm-hmm. That one's interesting because that one looks to me of more like a combine style programming, because they have very, very specific events to be tested. I can't remember. I think we've had some conversations with some people over there over the years about like what a good event would be to test gymnastic prowess or conditioning or strength. But yeah, that's definitely worth a look. But today will be Dubai. And with this programming is that we have some guidelines and some rules. We do our best to follow them. And to be fair to an event is that every event has its own challenges, constraints, guardrails. Right? I remember one year when it was when Fraser programmed the Madrid Championship, and we're like, "What is this garbage?" And it turned out he's like, they would only give us like 8 minutes to do the events, and we only had this amount of programming and floor space. I was like, I get it, right?
Yeah,
I get it. But we still found ways to make it work, to improve upon, and without I would say is like changing things entirely in an event, which I believe is cheating and unfair to the event. Where we know, look, yes, there's equipment limitations depending on where you're getting it from and what you have access to. There's schedule limitations depending on the number of people you have competing and the time of day at which you had and the venues that allow you to be where you're supposed to be. There's limitations in a variety of things. However, that should not limit the creativity at your fingertips of what events could potentially be with just a little more forethought, testing, planning, or bouncing off the walls or soundboarding with other people that have maybe a different level of experience or just different spirits in general, not saying leveling up or the other.
Well, I think what's really cool that we do is we understand what is trying to be done with that particular event, what the stimulus is trying to be, or what the overall intent of the competition is supposed to be. And we're not designing our own setup and saying, well, my setup is better. It's like all we're doing is minor tweaks, and it's crazy to me. I mean, here it is. We do it all the time, but it's crazy to me how you can make such small, fine adjustments, and it completely change the positivity of the competition and the events.
Yeah.
You know, where if we're doing our I wouldn't change it to where I wouldn't say that I'm making these changes. So obviously my thumbs up or thumbs down would be totally better because I came up with it. But it's just tweaks that we come up with that it's like, why didn't you think about this? How did you not think of it like that? How did you miss this piece?
Or if you did, what were your reasons of doing the latter?
Right. It's just fun to see how you really don't need to make massive tweaks. But it makes big changes.
And that's the thing is like, we don't want to change too much because then that would be unfair to the event. Because like, of course, yes, if I just brought in the assault runners for this event, you're like, okay, that's ridiculous. Like, Sammy, the Peace Corps series is going to be brilliant. Yes.
Yep.
2008 should be coming this week, which, I mean, right off the jump, we get to like have a real serious look at what the results would be using a different format.
Yeah.
Especially for that one, since everything was for time that year, which I'm very excited about. This is a game that will happen in the future. Today, we'll get there. We'll get there. Your reprogrammers for the day are Bill and I.
Oh, hello there.
Oh, hello. Look at you.
Hello.
I miss that mustache. This is a photo from you when you were at Dubai.
At Dubai, yeah. That's right.
It's a good looking photo of you.
Thanks.
All right. Are we ready?
Let's do it.
Are we ready? Now, the very first event was labeled 20-minute FTP test, which was just 20 minutes on the bike erg, damper setting at 10. I have a thing, and this might just be my thing, is that we talked about this on analyzing, is that if you're going to name something very specific, it should be that specific thing that you are naming. So an FTP test is just a functional threshold power test. That's what FTP stands for. This is used by cyclists to accurately gauge their current fitness level and establish a baseline for, wait for it, training intensity. So you're creating a baseline for training intensity. And if we all know, class, intensity is related to the stimulus of what you are basically attacking your task at. Call it a workout, call it an event, call it whatever. So the intensity of Fran being somewhere between 2 to 215 is much different than Fran being done at 10 to 10:15. Mm-hmm. I would argue that that's not Fran. You're just doing thrusters and pull-ups.
Right.
And so the FTP test is a test that is supposed to help create that baseline intensity. So if we were thinking like 1-to-1, it'd be basically it's like putting it at a certain damper setting changes what the test is. Because if you're just trying to put as much power output as possible, then that is supposed to be unique to the individual taking the test.
Right. It's based on that athlete.
Right. So my power output will vary in that 20-minute test based off fatigue level and the amount of effort I put through. Also, if a cyclist is doing this, like bikes have gears, and you might drop the gear to get into lower, higher revolution, lighter, I would say resistance style, where you can have higher RPMs but your power output might not be the same. Or you ratchet those up to the bigger gears, and now you're just cranking this thing and this chain, and your power output might be through the roof, but your stamina is going to go down. And that game of cat and mouse back and forth is part of the test. So forcing the damper setting here is where I had an issue. Like, if you want to put this as a test, fine. But if you're going to call it something, let it be as close to that as you can. So the only change that I had with this was no damper restriction, but the scoring for an FTP test is your power output times 0.95. That's it. Right. That's the number you get. That is the end result purpose of an FTP test. It's 20 minutes long, and you get this number. Now, if you're like, well, the number's the same times 0.95, it doesn't change the results. You're right, but you get accurate results. You get something similar. For example, it'd be like, hey, event 1 is a high rocks event. And you change all the movements in it, and they give you a time. You're like, okay, well, this wasn't a high rocks event. This was just 8 rounds of running, but different movements. Like, why did we call it a high rocks event? It's a high rocks-ish event, but it's not the same. So this is my change.
Yeah. Yeah.
Your change, oddly, was the same exact thing.
Well, because I was looking at that. I'm thinking, I like the idea of, okay, ride it at whatever you want to ride it.
Yeah.
You're going to have, athletes that they're just bigger quad dominant. They can just ride harder. They can drive harder, so they can, bring the dampener up higher. Whereas other athletes, they don't want to fatigue as fast, pushing so hard, so they want to have a higher RPM. Mm-hmm. Let them do what they want to do. And then the 0.95 at the end is like, okay, that is now your number.
Right. And
you're right. And I just, if you're going to call it an FTP, then make it an FTP, and that's okay.
Yeah.
That's all right.
Yeah. But yeah, it is. Yes, Lupe, if they just called it a 20-minute bike test, I would just be like, I don't like the damper setting restriction. That's where I would be.
Right.
But if we're going to call it an FTP test, like, what the whole point is.
They don't do that on calories for rowing. They don't do that in any rowing event where they say you must have your dampener at blah, blah, blah.
Yeah. It'd be like, pick a test in another sport that we would like to see how we compare to. So, okay, we're going to do an Olympic lifting meet or a weightlifting meet for the purists out there. But it's only going to be clean and no jerk. Like, okay, well, how am I supposed to compare myself to other people in my category if we don't do the actual test?
Right.
It's like, the indoor rowing world championships, 2K time trial. But like Bill said, is like, but you have to do it at a 10. It just doesn't make sense. It's not the same comparison. So no real issues with the event itself, but the execution of it and how it was presented, I feel like that little tiny fix, tiny change.
Crazy.
Twofold. Event 2, 1K run. I really wanted to just get rid of this, but I didn't. I just kept it the same. And so did Bill. And if you guys have been with us, me and Bill don't share our answers. Now, eventually I have to get Bill's information because I need to make the slides, but I don't look at Bill's stuff until I've finished my stuff and have inputted everything. Because even if I don't make my slides first and I see his, I'll be influenced to change something. I was like, oh, that's a good idea. So any ties or exact changes here is a result of me and Bill just being annoying for you guys. So now here's why I kept it. Honestly, my biggest problem was just, it's like the way I got to not watch it. I was like, I don't know if the juice is worth the squeeze. I know that the challenges of running something like that, especially in Dubai and having to do that on your own, like that's a unique challenge. It's like, just let them race. Like you don't even have to show it. It's now for this is you did a 20-minute bike test. Okay. Now we just have this short blast, different stimulus time domain, still monostructural for both. So I was like, legs to whatever. But if you look at the course of the weekend, outside of maybe the elimination bracket event, there's nothing really, really short on the table.
Right.
So this is that sub 3 minute max effort endeavor. If that's what this is, okay.
I just left it because there really wasn't a way to change it to try to get the same sort of stimulus. The stimulus
No.
obviously is they want them to push hard and just go all out for an amount of time, whatever that amount of time is that they're looking for. Um, I mean, originally I was kind of thinking like, okay, maybe they carry something, maybe at the 250 meters they have to do something, or I was trying to think of some other idea. Then I was like, you know what, that's not what they intended. So I had to go back to, what do they want? They just want to run. Okay, fine.
Yeah.
They have the run. There's really no way to change it. You're right, broadcasting it is a pain in the butt, but the broadcaster usually isn't looking at the program, or the programmer isn't usually starting out with what is it going to look like for everybody.
Ooh, that is a great point before we move to the next one. When programming a event that will be covered or watched by people, how it presents to the viewer from an entertainment standpoint, I think should be not at the forefront of like, it's like make the event and then come back again and be like, okay, now, because that's what usually
Now how
happens.
can we
Like,
make it? Yeah.
it's like, hey, here's 9 to 11 events I'm thinking about using. Okay, how do these fit in each day? How does this fit with equipment coming off? How does this fit in terms of time domains? How does this fit in terms of, like, you look at all these things and then you start like, okay, well, how does this present to the viewer? Now, this is all off site, so nobody's going to get to watch it anyways.
Right.
But
Right.
that should be
It is important.
in
It
there.
is important. And it's easy once you come up with what the workout is, or what the event is that you're trying to showcase.
Mhm.
You can always, I mean, like JR does that when he's doing Crash. He's like, he has his initial setup, and then he's think, okay, moving people down the floor so that they can see what it looks like.
Yeah.
Cool. Offsite stuff is really, really hard to do. And I think that if you are offsite, then it's like, okay, now how do you highlight the event so it doesn't just get pushed under the rug?
Mm.
And a lot of that, like broadcast wise, it's like, personally, I would rather, for events like this, not to showcase it, not to try to go live, but to do a post-production
Yeah.
setup with highlights, because that's going to be way more exciting to watch. It's going to make it way more exciting than having to sit there and drag through the whole, oh, thanks, Eaton.
Thanks, Eaton.
Merry Christmas to you
Appreciate
too.
that. Merry Christmas.
But like to try to drag through the whole, whatever it is, 20 minutes of everyone just sitting there, or the run, or the obstacle course. I mean, it's gonna be cool to see it, but like trying to watch it is really difficult to do. And I think that what that ends up doing, it ruins the event rather than highlighting the event.
Yeah.
And so post-production things, I think, are for these type of things. And again, this was the first day, so get all that shit out of the way first. That's cool. Post-production, all the stuff. Yeah, and have all your interviews and whatever.
I mean, a lot of their post-pro like reels and stuff they did were fantastic.
Awesome, right?
Page.
Totally.
They did it. They did such a great job with that. Okay, so no real change there.
Nope.
Putting it right after the bike,
right?
Order, and which goes into this next one is like, okay, now we went 20-minute bike at a 10, as hard as they could, slog fest, and then we went sprint, and then we went 5K obstacle course. Now the 5K got broke up a lot because I think there was something like 30 obstacles on this. By the way, that whole thing looks sweet. I would love to do that.
Yeah.
I think it was a cool event for the athletes to be a part of. An awesome experience to have this whole course, and it's like this world championship course. I mean, this obstacle course was made for the best of the best. Which comes into mind, little change is that some of those I was told were too good. And when you do an obstacle course like this, like the obstacle course they had last year, I thought was awesome. It was short. Everybody could do it. If you couldn't do it, it was more just like trying to figure it out on the fly. There was nothing out of reach for too many people. It's like when I watch Ninja Warrior. And again, this is just a personal thing. Ninja Warrior, to me, is not very entertaining because it's just a bunch of spider monkeys out there with iron grips and just doing these things. And I'm like, all right, well, I will never be able to do this because this is like outside of the world of fitness. This is just all grip, right? This is rock climber a rock climber obstacle course,
Mm-hmm.
coupled with some, gymnastics, parkour people. So when I look at testing something like this is going through and maybe finding some of the obstacles where I want the run to be a bigger part of something like this if we're going to have that versus who is the best inverted spike, slippery hand grip finger hold guy. You know what I mean?
I get it.
And so my only thing was like, hey, keep the course, keep it all, but maybe just a little bit more run through of like, listen, this is outside of our realm of like, it's just going to take away, right? Log jams, whether somebody could get through it or not, or if they miss, whatever. And just comb through that course a little bit more and make it more of a fitness test using obstacles versus can anybody do this thing? No? All right. That's what I took out of it. Thank you, Vicky. Thank you, Vicky. I appreciate that. Merry Christmas to you.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas. Barbell spin, but were you there? No, that's, I was not. I was watching and I was told by other people how it went. Bill, you changed nothing. Look at you.
I didn't. And the reason I like the fact that the stuff was new and interesting. And I mean, Dubai is not trying to find the fittest. Dubai is trying to showcase.
Okay.
I would rather see the athletes do some things that they're not going to do at a normal setup. I like the fact that like at Rogue, they had the sideways pegboard.
Yes.
We saw how many athletes just failed miserably on that. And to me, that doesn't mean that it was a bad test. It just means that we have athletes that aren't able to adapt to a lot of things on the fly. I know that there are very specific things because of the world level, elite level obstacles that are on this thing. I think that there could have been ways to do that. Something sort of like in the old Spartan races, they would do if you would fail a obstacle, you'd have to have like a burpee penalty or something like that. We can throw those types of things in there.
They had something,
Something like that. Whatever it is. But I do think it is fun. The only issue I had on this day was the fact that you had 3 events that were, and even though this is obstacles, I know that it's 5K.
Right.
There's a lot of activity that's happened, and I wish they could have done like this in the morning, one of them on each of the days, and then just kind of spread it out through. But again, I understand that the logistics of trying to get all the cabling and cameras and all that stuff done. It's a pain in the ass, and I saw someone had something about like get a hotspot and it'll be fine. It never works like that. It's never that easy. I've been on multiple ones of those, and what ends up happening is that in theory and on paper it sounds great, and then you get out there and nothing is working. So
it's hard.
It's really hard. I mean, and I've done all of them. Pendleton to one that's done in Dubai to, I mean, you name it. You name it. So, but I when I was looking at these 3 on this day, I was like, you know what? I get what they are. I don't see any real changes that I can make to really affect it. So I'm like, leave it.
All right. I mean, look, this is me being nitpicky me.
No, it's all good.
But yeah. And I'm the same too. It's like, all right, if we're going to leave it in. But like bike on the same day, sprint on the same day, this on the same day.
I mean, that's a lot on the same day.
Yeah. It's a lot of the same thing on the same day.
Right.
Okay. Day's not over. We go to the duty-free tennis stadium, and they have a max weight complex. It was 1 clean, 1 front squat, 1 jerk, and I think it was like 1 person per minute rotation for 3 rotations in this. Trying to find the heaviest complex. I know we had talked your idea, which I believe you kept.
I did.
I didn't want to take your idea, although I really like your idea.
Thanks.
What I wanted to do is I wanted to get out of the rut of this type of program event, especially here. These kind of things, like it's like, let's get something a little bit more fresh. So what I did was change it up a little bit. Now this keeps the timing all in there. And I was thinking, I was like, okay, what's something we've done? What's something that's more engaging to watch? What's something that's easier to follow? And what's something that has something on the line other than just making the lift? So what I programmed is 3 power cleans, 2 front squats, and 1 shoulder to overhead. 10 platforms with ascending weights. So that 3, 2, 1, the first guy or girl, minute 1, platform. Advance to the next minute. And it's just this snake of the whole crew, right? And so now instead of chasing lists and I wonder what that weight is and was that good? And you're just trying to, like, lifting events are probably the hardest thing to cover in CrossFit.
Oh, man.
Especially if the format is off, right? Even if it's like these 2 people and then these 2 people, it's like these 2 people. And if you don't have weight cards, like what weights are they using? And then if it's like kilograms to pounds, or now you're just looking at colors, like you're just guessing,
right?
Hoping you don't miss anybody. And here it's like, hey, listen, this is the strongest person. They're getting closer to the second half. Now, what I have here is with these weights, and I use kilograms because I just didn't want to offset what they did with pounds. But for the men, it's 100 kilograms on the first platform, which is 220. And then it increased 5 kilograms every platform up to 145, which is close to 320, 3-ish. 140 is 308. So 320, yeah, close. The tiebreaker is the time it takes you to finish the complex. So we might have several people get to that last platform, but now not only are you wondering if they can get it, but now you're trying to see who can do it faster. And that's a tiebreaker we've never seen in competition. And so to bring something a little bit new, a little bit fresh, and the nice thing here is that the plates don't change. You just keep it there. It's easy for the next group, and it's just this snake for the men, and it's a snake for the women, and you follow the person who's going to get to the last platform, or it's like, hey, listen, they got to 140. They need to get to 140 because they're 5 points behind this person, but they also need to do it in less than 23 seconds. And so that bar comes off the floor. There's like a timer going. Like they got 5 seconds to get this jerk. It just adds another element to the programming.
I think that's cool. I think it might be it would be difficult to see the clock on the timing. Like you're going to have to rely on your judges that when the bar starts.
Yeah, it's on the judge.
It's on the judges doing that. But I just, I like what it is though. I think it would be, I could see all kinds of mistakes happening with people with timing, but I do love this. And we've done this. I've seen this. I know NCC's done this a bunch of times.
Mm-hmm.
We've had it like thrusters and our snatches. We've had those at regionals.
Yeah.
We've seen this one a lot. I do like that, but we've never seen it in a complex form like that.
Yeah.
Which is cool.
I would like. Bill, you kept your one clean. Is this clean anyhow?
Clean anyhow.
2 front squats.
But you can't squat clean for your clean and your first squat.
Got it. And then 3 jerks.
Yep.
So same format that they had is that this group goes down, 3 rounds of it, trying to find the heaviest complex.
Yep.
The thing I like about yours is that 3 rep overhead after what you've already done is something I haven't seen programmed in a way that you have here.
Yeah. We've seen everyone clean. We've seen everyone do all the squats and everything. And it always usually ends up being like 1 shoulder to overhead. And for most of the athletes that we've seen, I just don't see that being the hard part. Like they struggle with the cleans and they're working through all this and then they get it to their shoulders, like pop, and it goes right up. And like, that didn't look very hard.
Yeah.
So I like the idea of like flipping it.
Yeah. I like yours. That was a fun one.
Yeah.
All right. That's day 1. Event number 5. I want to do ones where we just like rename everything. Double unders and strength challenge is what they called it. 100 heavy double unders, 20 sandbag cleans at 150 and 100, 50 toes to bar, 20 cleans, 100 heavy double unders. Probably one of the better ones for the weekend.
Yep.
I liked it. I changed mine slightly, and you're going to laugh when you see mine. Because I laughed when I saw yours.
Uh-oh.
The 20 number bothered me. coupled with the 50. Also, I was like, this isn't a strength challenge. And I think we need a heavier sandbag. I know there's one later. I'm just going to pull Bill's up so we just okay. There also isn't a ton of squatting this weekend. Right?
No, not at all.
I mean, other than what they had in the elimination one, but that was like 10 reps at a time. That's if you made it. Right. And so what I did is I kept the heavy double unders. I made it 25 sandbag squats with the 200 and 150 bag, and kept the toes to bar, 25 squats at the bag, kept the toes to bar. And for the viewers at home and those watching in the stands and following along on the broadcast, you had to advance your bag every 5 reps. So you have your rope where they did 50, 50, and then you picked up the heavy bag, 5 squats, move, bags by the rig, 50 toes to bar, move, double under. And so there's something in there versus I wonder what number they're on with the sandbag cleans.
Yep.
And it doesn't change the time frame. It just changes the feeling of the workout. And so that's what I did. Now you did the same thing.
Same thing. And you
dropped the toes.
But I had 25 and 50. I had that for a long time. Because I was thinking, all right, with the other one, and the time cap was 12 minutes, but athletes were like around like 7 to 9, I think is where they were. So I'm thinking, with that sandbag 50 at 200 pounds, like that's going to get dicey. And we saw what it did on the original sandbag squat, kind of what that felt like for some of the athletes.
Yeah.
So I was like, I don't see them. I wasn't trying to push them to 12 minutes. I wanted them to kind of be around the same time frame where they were. And so that's why I ended up bringing it down. So I'm like, okay, I can't have the 20 and the 50. That bothered me too.
Yeah.
So I'm like, all right, I either go 25 and 50 or I go 20 and 40. And so I went 20 because I was figuring 40 squats with the sandbag is going to be shitty. Yeah. The toes to bar, like, okay, it's still a big number. It'll just be a little bit faster than a little bit faster than what you had, but the same idea.
Yep.
Same idea.
Lupe, that's good. I'd keep the weight the same for men. No one's going unbroken on 200. Incorrect. Right. They had ski bag at the CrossFit Games, and it was 30 and then 20, and plenty of people went unbroken.
Yep.
At these exact weights. So,
that's what, and I wanted it. I was also thinking that like pushing them to that number.
Yeah.
And
that's why I kept 50. I was like, well, they did 50 the games 2 years ago.
True.
They can do the same here. Advance every 5. And now it has a strength challenge in the middle of the event, as described in their title. So leads us to the next one, which is their elimination sprint. 20 chest bar pull-ups, 10 sandbag squats at those weights, and then a shuttle sprint to the finish. Here's what I did. I changed the chest to bar muscle ups. So I went from 20 to 10. I changed the sandbag squats to sandbag cleans with the weight from the previous one.
Right.
Okay. But you're going to advance every 2 reps. So now we get to see people race within the race that is happening versus what number are they on? I don't know where they're at. Right? Are they at 10? Can they go? So and this is reminiscent of is it 2017 regional finale?
Yeah.
Bike burpee over the box and then 10 cleans to the finish.
Yep.
So 2 move, 2 move, 2 move. Once you get to 10 and you're at the finish line, you bear hug, carry it back to the start, and then you sprint across the finish line. Why? Because it puts a visual on the race. It keeps people moving. It adds an element where people can screw up versus just 10 unbroken. Like, okay, once you're on it, like what's going to happen? The advancing is part. And then in the bear hug, and then plus it puts the bag back to the start. So you don't have to change out the weight. And then the same breakdowns that they have there. But this has an element of fitness attached to it versus, well, they're just fast.
Right.
So that's what I did. I'm really happy with it. Now, Bill, Is this an elimination one, or did you scrap the elimination thing?
No, I still was having an elimination, but it wasn't just going to be like 30 seconds. The shuttle sprint is quick. I just wanted something to break it up. I knew the cleans would be fast for these guys.
Okay.
I wanted the pieces to matter within the race, so it wasn't just like who's the fastest.
Right.
And then all of a sudden, the shuttle actually does break what you have going on. So you have to run the shuttle fast to get back to the next piece, is what I was thinking. So there's a little bit more activity, obviously, in between. The 25 chest to bar, I still think is fast, but it's a little bit more, keeps them on there a little bit longer. The cleans, it's going to force them to try to stay on the bag as long as possible. And now the shuttles actually do count, and you can see them because you can actually see the athletes as you're running in between.
Right.
So I still wanted to be an elimination. So
that is so much work.
Right? I know.
Dude.
Well, that's what I was thinking. So I was like going, okay, well, how many rounds are they going to get through on
They
this?
did
Okay, how much is that going to do?
Right.
And I did think about that, but at the time I'm like, whatever.
Is it 40? Is it 40, 30?
Did it go down by 10?
10, 5? Yeah.
Well, see, then for me, I would have only had 4.
Okay.
I would have only. I don't like the
5 rounds that the winner's doing
120 pull-ups. Yeah, actually, I didn't think about the 5. I don't like the eliminations that go down to where it's such a small number. Like if you're cutting by 10, then just cut them by 10.
So 40, 30, 20, 10, and just run it.
Yeah.
Okay. Still, man, that's a lot.
Oh, these guys are fine. Dude, I wouldn't, old guy, I wouldn't mind the pull-ups. Like it wouldn't affect me that bad.
Yeah, the pull-ups do fine. Sandbag cleans. Whew. Just coming back to that second round.
Yeah.
I thought this was just a sprint chipper. I was like, damn, that's a nasty little sprint chipper. It's like, oh, they're gonna do it again.
That's right, bitches.
I said it's like I added some fitness to my elimination. Is like you quadrupled what I was bringing to the table.
I just wanted something different. I was so irritated by it.
Yeah.
I don't know. I kind of dove into that one.
No, that is a good one. Simon Hernandez. What do you say? Chase, hope that idea I spoke to you about on Instagram of your guys' OG clothing line comes true. Keep up the good work. Thank you.
Thanks.
Speaking of, let me just switch gears for just a second. If anybody hasn't seen, it's like, hey, when you guys are coming out with new stuff? When you coming out with stuff? I got to make sure that this, let's see. Yes. This is the new OG line. Oh, look at that.
Looks good.
This is coming in 2025.
It's so fun, you guys.
It's gonna be 2025 is going to be a great year. All in. All in. Shirts, patches. I've already got flag requests.
Really?
Yeah. So if you guys don't follow the OG culture on Instagram, that is the brand, that is the place. Go follow that. Go follow that, and you will get all the breaking news of our new line. And we'll bring out some classics. But I'm so happy with this. So Ken did an awesome job.
Yeah, I did.
Ken does such a good job of being like, hey, I want this. Can you do it? He's like, yeah, no problem. He's a great, yeah, no problem guy. I love it.
I love it.
All right, event number 7. The EMOM challenge. We're just going to erase this from our memory. And I know Lucy had hopped on, and we actually had a conversation off. It was a very productive conversation because she just was trying to process of why this isn't the same as rinse and repeat. And it was a good chat. A conversation people should normally have. I appreciate it. All right, so their EMOM. Okay, I'm just going to say mine. I scrapped the EMOM. I was like, for time, 5 rounds, go on volume, 20 burpee box jump overs, same height, 20 alternating. Oh, no, that's not what I wrote. I thought I changed it. Hold on. I thought I changed it. I did one change here. Maybe I didn't save it. God, how many slides did I make?
Lots.
I did make. I made a lot of slides. Okay, this is. Oh no. No, weird. It doesn't read on that as I had it originally. Hold on. Let me No, that's not what I wanted. Nope. Not what I wanted. Here. What number are we on? 7?
Yeah.
Dang it. That's not it. All right. Well, I don't know why I won't show. Here, okay, so I have 5 rounds, 20 burpee box jump over, same height. I switched the row with the snatches. Okay, so 20 17 cal row is supposed to be here. Then 20 alternating dumbbell snatches.
Oh.
A couple reasons for this. One, I wanted the burpee box jump overs to have a heavy emphasis on gymnastics fatigue. We haven't had a bunch of that. Toes to bar, okay. There may be some later, but like we've had sandbags fatigue, obstacle course fatigue, bike fatigue, barbell complex, not really fatigue from a cycling perspective, but I wanted the burpee box rowers to have a heavy hand in this. I wanted a higher volume, longer event versus a single modality longer event. And then I wanted the dumbbell snatches to be last because at the end of each round, you will advance your dumbbell forward. And if we're going to end on a race, it's kind of cool to end it on a dumbbell snatch race. Or maybe a burpee box.
I hear what you're saying.
Race.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah, instead of the row.
Versus the row.
I got you.
Right? If everyone's just like racing on the rower and like nobody knows where anybody is, so we're kind of excited, we're waiting for a hand to go in the air. Instead, it's just the dumbbell's right there. So you get to see where people are at on the field. You advance the dumbbell forward every round, and then the last round, they're racing 20 alternating dumbbell snatches. I wanted something for time. I wanted it long. It stays around 20 with a higher volume. That's what I wanted to change. Bill, you also went 5 rounds for time.
I thought that was interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I went 5 rounds. I actually really like your idea. Originally, and I don't think I really wrote it down, as I went the other way. So it was 20, 15, 10. I just flipped everything.
Okay.
But I don't think I didn't put it on there on the notes when I sent it to you. But I like the set, the 10 burpee box jump overs, the dumbbell snatches. I know that you were having a hard time with the 16 on that, but I figured whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Plus it just kept the numbers in the 5 range there. So 5, 10, 15, 20. I liked what that was. Or even the 5, 20, 15, 10, whichever.
Right.
But it's about half the time. It's about 2/3 of the time of yours because you have 50 more burpee box jump overs than I do, which ends up being a lot of time. I wanted them to move. I didn't want them to do as much as what you were looking at, especially since on the other one, I just had them do so much more before.
Yeah.
So I wanted them to be able to hang in there and just kind of get after it without being completely fatigued.
Right.
So that's what I was looking at on this one.
Yeah.
And I've just figured it was an easy fix. I looked at what they had, and they had 17 minutes on their time frame for the EMOM, and then the last 2 rounds on that. And I'm like, okay, they can hop in there for 5 rounds. And I would do this at my gym also.
Oh, for sure.
And it would be okay.
Yeah.
So I thought it was an easy tweak and an easy fix to actually get a better race than what they had.
Correct. Low bar.
Mm-hmm.
That was a low blow. Sort of. But yeah, that's it. Simple.
Yep.
Fix. Event 8. The Lazar tribute. Now, a lot of these numbers had to deal with the day that he passed at the CrossFit Games, which is part of the numbers at which they chose just by seeing it. We had this discussion, and I'm just going to pull up both just to bother people. Is me and Bill, once again,
Boom.
little no change. Now, I will have bits questions that we took out the monostructural pieces. We took out the ski erg and we took out the bike. Those were worthless for the event, save for the last one because you're racing on thing. But we have had so much monostructural stuff, we don't need any more. And I also put 20 cals for 5 rounds on the last one with burpee box jump over, so we're good.
Right.
And what we want is a very high power output, unpaced chipper. Right? The first one with the double unders, the squats, the toes to bar, that is a very paced, right? You have to figure out your pacing, your squats, your toes to bar. That was more of a war of attrition. Taking out the monostructural elements, so it took 4 to 5 minutes of time here of just people finding a zone 2. Now we're racing. Now we're racing. So we took out that stuff. So it's 8 power snatches at 85 and 60. We kept the weights the same. Right into 8 squats. 30-meter handstand walk, and it was like length, unbroken. 6-4 in the rope climbs. Now, I believe their rope climbs was that the first 2 had to be legless, and then the rest were legs. There was some rule there.
I don't remember.
I made them all legless. Like, let's make it go to work. And now, if you guys are missing the 24 here, like for 2024, 6 times 4 is still 24. So this still works
Right.
for the tribute. This was the thought process. And then work your way back. Now, it's more intense. It's more barbell cycling. It's more emphasis on gymnastic stamina and speed and execution versus blip, bike again, blip. Okay, now we can race on the ski erg.
Yeah. I really like the snatch into the overhead squats. Like, I just love that part. And even the overhead squats into the snatch at the end, I think that's awesome. I actually just kept all regular rope climbs because I wanted the intensity to stay up.
Yep.
I didn't want anyone to get buried on a legless. I didn't want that to affect. Yeah. I wanted them to go.
Okay.
I wanted them to go.
I'll sign off on that. I don't hate that at all.
Yeah.
I originally had 8 and 6 regular rope climbs.
Okay.
But then I was like, oh no, I cut out the 24. So I want to keep that number in there. So like, okay, I'll go back to 6-4. But I'll bump it to legless for all of them.
Yeah.
But I'm down with that, right? Push the pace. If we want this a push the pace event, then that's what this is.
Yep.
So simple. It doesn't extend the timeline. The timeline actually gets shorter. Nothing really changes but the intensity, execution for both barbell cycling and gymnastics, of which we have not had isolated yet. To this to this point in the competition. So we're adding a new element in here. We've had huge monostructural tests, single modality, 3 of them. And then we have a weightlifting test in a strength setting. It's a complex, but that's not barbell cycling. Here, different. Dumbbell snatch in the previous one, light, high volume, heavy, shorter reps here. Encourages. Like, nobody went touch and go here because they had the ski erg at the end.
Right.
If you're like 8 overhead squats and 8 power snatches to get to the finish line at 85 and 60, which is about 185 and 135. Technically, it's 132. I think this is like 187, but whatever, right? You don't think those guys and girls, given the opportunity to try to win an event, can try to do that?
That would be such a good race.
That's what you want to see. You want to see 8 power snatches racing to the finish line, not a 21 cal or 28 cal ski erg. There is no visual stimulus to that. There is no race to be had. You just sit there and wait for them to get done. So, Lupe, you missed the whole point. We're not adding GHDs. All right, event 9. The final showdown. Well, I guess we got 5 minutes here. We'll get through this. 20 bar muscle ups, 15 hang clean and jerks at the same weights they just did, and then a 1 dumbbell overhead walking lunge at the weights they use here. Mine is that instead of bar muscle ups, because I had bar muscle ups in the other one, I'm doing ring. They've had rings there almost every year. You just add them. They have ropes. Yes, I'm adding a piece of equipment, but it's ring muscle ups. 25 and 20, on the verge of can I go unbroken? Or am I going to have to break once or maybe twice? You don't know, and we don't want that to be a sure thing going in. I had 20 hang clean and jerks because that's the opposite movement pattern with a barbell of a ring muscle up. A pull into a push where the pull's not the hardest part, it's the push. Same thing for hang clean and jerk. So the movement patterns are the same, and I dropped the loading. It's basically 165 and 115 between men and women. Can you do 20 of those? Yeah, probably. Can you do them after 25 or 20 ring muscle-ups? I'm not sure.
Right.
Maybe 1 break, possibly 2, depending on how hard I went here. You don't know. And then a 15-meter double dumbbell overhead walking lunge to the finish line, where the potential to fail overhead is in play the entire time because of the pre-fatigue. Bill, you were very similar, where you just added 10 bar muscle ups. So now for the same reasons, right?
Yep.
Maybe
I want it to count.
Yep.
I want it to be like, okay, how deep can I get into that set of 30? Am I going to take a structured break at 15, or am I going to go 20 and 10? Or am I going to try to hold on and save that amount of rest so I can get to the barbell first? And if I'm one of the, if I need some extra time, I'm more of a gymnastic ninja. I'm going to try to get through those so that I can get to my barbell where I need it. I kept the weight up on the clean and jerks, and I like that set, that 15 at 185 and 135. I really like that, what that is. And again, it's the same thing. Yeah, you probably could do it unbroken, but what's it really going to feel like, especially with all of that pulling that you were doing for the bar muscle ups and pressing that you're going to be doing on the jerks, and then having to support the overhead walking. And I meant overhead on that too. The double overhead walking lunge with the dumbbells. And I had both of them at the weight that they had originally.
Yep.
Which would be like that march to the end. Like I said before, I want to see the speed wobbles and the bambiness on that. That's what I want. And I want people to be failing right at the finish line. Those are the most exciting races,
right,
especially on a final.
Like what we saw at semifinals this year.
Yep.
And so with these minor tweaks, better visuals, better races, more variance in the programming, better tests, squats that matter in a sense of a chipper, an elimination style event that's easier to judge and manage, taking out pieces that are more distraction of either attention span, boredom, or lack of purpose, and then a final that has something on the line versus it's a race to the dumbbell, not a race to the finish line.
Right.
And that's it. And it took less than an hour.
Look at that.
I texted Bill last night. I was like, hey, send me your events. And like 30 minutes later, he just sent them to me. I was like, okay, cool. And so there you have it. So why we do the things, what the things we look at, make it less about what event we're looking at and more about what was programmed for those events. We didn't add equipment that wasn't possible to be around. We didn't add time to the schedule. We varied the tests that were being presented. That's how it's done. Made it more visually stimulating.
There you go, guys.
The things you should think about as a programmer, especially for an event. Not tomorrow, Wednesday, we'll be analyzing the programming of the Legends Fitness Championship that just went down this weekend. Was it in?
It was in Arizona and Phoenix.
Yeah. It wasn't at Arizona State?
Yeah.
Ugh.
You don't like ASU?
Bear down. No, both my parents went to Arizona.
Oh, that's right.
Thanks, guys, for joining us. We're going to work on getting P-scoring back on Friday as well. Sammy, the question, do you think these event organizers go through similar process to this, i.e. original programming was even wilder? No, I don't.
Or it's within a very tight, like, echo chamber.
I think they do a version. I don't think they just guess and hope and pray that it sticks. But this level, no. But that's why we've been doing this for as long as we have, and that's why we do it on a show so you guys can see it. Other event organizers out there can at least see where we're coming from, especially when we're analyzing the programming. Right? It's not like, oh, this event is stupid because I think it's stupid. It's like, no, this event was almost great, and here's what great looks like. It's all about education. All right, guys, thanks for joining us. We'll be back on Wednesday. Bill, good to see you.
You too, dude. I'll see you later.